In the last couple of examples, we've started to talk about variables that I referred to as references to objects. And here I have a little diagram just to give you a sense of the concept that we're talking about. In C#, you have really two categories of variables. You have the value type variables and reference type variables. Value type variables are things like the primitive types like int and double and float. These primitive types are all represented in C# by instances of so-called struct data types, S-T-R-U-C-T, struct data types, whereas reference types are represented with classes. And when you declare a variable of a reference type, it can refer to an object of a class, but does not necessarily refer to an object of a class. And references that are not initialized with a specific object are initialized to null instead, specifically instance variables that are references. When you declare a local variable that's a reference and you don't initialize it and then you try to use it, you wind up with a compilation error. So in the context of our gradebook examples, we've seen this statement multiple times now. Gradebook, my gradebook, is assigned a new gradebook object. And what's really happening in memory is something along the lines of this diagram here, where you have the variable my gradebook, which refers to the actual object that we create. And now, of course, as of the last example, that object contains a course name string. And by the way, that string course name is also a reference. So really, whatever course name is assigned, there would be an arrow pointing out of this box to another object in memory that contains the characters of that string. So it turns out that by default, when you're manipulating value type variables, the value gets stored in the actual variable of that type, whereas when you're manipulating reference type variables, the thing that's stored in the variable itself is the location, if you will, of that object in memory, not the contents of the object itself.